To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get, time to lose, time to keep, time to cast away, time to rend, and time to sow, a time to keep silence, and a time to speak, time to love, and a time to hate, time of war, and a time of peace. All right, last episode we talked about gathering stones together, memorials, altars, foundations, all the stuff that'll help build your life.
So we built rocks last time. We built
it up, gathered them together.
So today, are we going to be throwing rocks?
Yeah, let's throw some rocks, man. Let's get aggressive. Ecclesiastes 3, there's a time to cast away stones. So today we're going to flip it from gathering them to casting them away. And that's, we'll get into those times, but it's times to let go, clear a field, sling something at a giant,
Okay, all right. But before we get too into it, now, James, I need you to be honest here. You ever throw a rock at something you probably shouldn't have?
Oh, man. You know what? 2 rock throwing memories come to mind. I knew this was going to be the question. And there's 2 different rock throwing. Now, I can say it's not me. I didn't do it.
That's what everybody says.
Yeah, that is what everybody says. But 2 moments are burned into my brain, man. First was back in high school. Okay, back in high school, friends lived diagonal across the street, best friends, we goof off all the time, run around, cause trouble. It was before BC. Before church, before Christ, okay?
All right.
Cause all kinds of trouble. And it was a brother and sister. Sister was my age. Brother was just about a year or 2 younger than us. But we all hung out all the time, man, all the time. And I was always at their house. And this one time we was playing around, goofing off. And for whatever reason, my buddy, he threw a rock. I was standing on the porch, on their front porch, and he chunked a rock at me.
Just threw a rock at you.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
Like playfully, but yeah, he was throwing the rocks. We was goofing off. I'm sure it had something to do with what we were doing.
Yeah.
But the rock shattered their front door.
Oh, the front glass.
Storm door.
Storm door, okay.
Yeah, like shattered the whole door. And we're like, oh, man, we in trouble. We are in trouble. And this is why it's burned in my head. Because we did the right thing and we told his dad what happened. And we were like, hey, so sorry. Here's what happened. We were goofing off. My buddy, Ryan, he's like, I threw a rock. It broke the window. And his dad, Ryan, I am not stupid. I know what happened.
That's what every dad's going to say.
I know what happened. And what really happened was you guys were goofing off and James pushed you into the door and you broke the door that way.
What?
And you just don't want to get James in trouble.
What?
He totally put it on me.
The dad put it on you?
Yeah.
Wow.
He was trying to protect me, and so we had told the truth.
Apparently he's trying to hurt his son.
But he's like, yeah. He's like, I'm not stupid. And I'm thinking,
oh, that's so good.
Be careful.
That
be
is
careful.
So good.
The moral of that story is I have not ever told my kids, I ain't stupid. I know what you done.
Yeah.
Because that would be the time that I'm wrong.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
And the other time with throwing a rock is camp charging bull is what we call it.
Camp charging bull.
Long time ago, Noah was a baby. Well, he wasn't. I think Katie was probably the baby. It was a long time ago.
Camp Charging Bull, is that the name?
That's what we called the camp. We named our camp because we had this great, brilliant idea. We used to go camping really quite a bit with the Wilsons. And we went to this southeast Oklahoma, Kiamichi Mountains. And we were camping. I want to say, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was Mother's Day weekend. Highly recommend you don't take your wife camping in a tent in the woods in the Kiamichi Mountains for Mother's Day weekend, just saying.
That sounds...
But we were going down there camping. We had just bought a new van. We had a new van, Town and Country at the time, Kimberly and I. And so we got down to the campsite. We were setting up camp. And for whatever reason, Tony and Noah and I, we were like, we're going to go over here and check this other site out to see if we want to go over there and camp. Well, to get there, you drove around this dirt trail, and there was a big river creek thing that ran through there. Yeah. It wasn't quite a river, but it was a good, solid creek. And it had been super rainy. And so the water was high, and it was over the bridge. So we couldn't see where the bridge was.
Oh, no.
But there was these bulls standing on the other side of the creek, of the river. It was a good distance. I wouldn't want to just walk on through it, you know?
No, of course not. You're going to.
But there was these bulls over there, and Tony's like, so I parked the van. We get out. Noah's little. He's really little.
Okay.
I don't even know if Katie was around or not, but I know Noah was. He was pretty little. The girls can tell the story better, I'm sure. But so Noah's there, I'm there, Tony's there. We park, we get out, we kind of get the doors open on the van, and there's these bulls right across the river, the creek thing, and we can't see. We see where the road goes into the water,
right?
But we can't see the bridge. We don't know how deep it is. We don't really want to
turn around, don't drown, man.
Yeah, we don't really want to cross this thing in my van, right?
Yeah.
Well, Tony picks up a rock. He's like, let's see how deep this thing is. And he throws the rock. Well, he throws the rock, and did I mention there's bulls right on the other side, like wild bulls. Like, I don't know, I guess they got feral bulls down there or something. I don't know. But these bulls are over there, and he throws the rock at the bull.
Why would he throw it at the bull?
Dude, Camp Charging Bull. Guess what that bull did?
It charged you.
He charged us. He showed us just how deep that water was, and it wasn't that deep.
It wasn't that deep.
That bull comes at us. We start running back to the van, and I got to grab Noah.
Yeah.
And as I'm running back to the van, literally my thought is, how do you tell the insurance company that you got gored by a bull? Like, do they cover that?
Charging bull.
So, yeah,
they don't cover that.
They don't cover stupid, right?
Because you insinuated it. Well, Tony
did. I'm blaming Tony,
that's
man.
Funny.
Camp Charging Bull.
Well, you see, I mean, sometimes you throw the wrong stones, my man.
Yeah. What about you, man? You ever throw any rock? You got any rock throwing story?
I was I want to say young 6th, 7th grader in the apartments that we were living in.
Charging Bull, dude.
It's funny. It's all good.
I can picture it. Oh, man. I can picture it. Okay, sorry.
I can imagine it in my head. I can imagine. That's what makes it even more funny. Anyways, I was 6th, 7th grade. We lived in an apartment building, and there was a vacant apartment. And for some reason, we just decided to start throwing rocks at windows. And so we threw a rock inside the window, and it obviously busted the window. And
just good, clean fun.
Yeah, I mean,
you little
I don't
punk.
know why we did that stuff. But anyways, somebody threw a marble. Remember we talked about marbles? They threw a marble inside.
Yeah, you playing with marbles.
Yeah. And so somebody threw a marble inside, and it was their favorite marble, and they were scared to go inside and get it or whatever. So I decided to try to go through the glass because the door was locked, obviously, right? And I ended up cutting my finger.
Oh, dude.
And I still have the scar on my finger.
You have DNA evidence. I
did. But I mean, it's funny that we're talking about this because I have literally a baby scar, on this finger here, and then on my middle finger,
right there.
it's got the big deep scar.
Yeah.
From it, and so that's a fond memory I have. I remember
A fond
it was
memory.
yesterday. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. That was our fun, just throwing rocks.
You causing trouble.
But we threw the wrong one.
Throwing the wrong rocks.
We threw the wrong one because look what happens, you get the deep one.
Get scars.
Yeah.
Insurance claims.
Oh, that was a trip. Actually, I had to get stitches on this thing. So that was a trip to the ER.
Man.
Yeah, it was pretty deep. Yeah.
All right.
But today we're going to talk about the right time, right?
Right
Instead
time.
of the wrong time, we're going to talk about the right time.
Let
to let
some
them
rocks go. Okay. Sounds like a plan. Okay. So just like last episode where we talked about times to gather stones together, there's definitely some specific biblical times that we should cast them away, toss them out, chunk them, right?
Chunk them away.
Get rid of them. And I think the first one seems to me the most obvious, right? Holding on to judgment. Judgment. It's one of the clearest examples of
holding on to judgment.
Casting stones in the Bible. Yeah. Stoning people.
Wow.
Yeah. Judgment.
That is judgment. You're talking about Achan, right?
Yeah, Achan. That's a Joshua 7. Israel just been defeated by AI. Is that how you say it? AI?
AI.
AI? That's how you spell it.
Aye.
Aye.
Don't let me say it, man, because I'll start speaking taco. Aye.
Oh, that's wrong. That's wrong. Anyhow, God told Joshua someone had taken of the accursed thing, something that was supposed to be off limits, and that sin entered the camp, right? And it affected everybody.
And it wasn't just a slap, right, on the wrist?
No, man, this was serious stuff. So let's read what happened.
All right.
You want me to read or you read?
Yeah, I'll read it. Joshua 7:25, and Joshua said, "Why hast thou troubled us? The Lord shall trouble thee this day." And all Israel stoned him with stones, and burned them with fire, after they had stoned them with stones. Wow, that's gruesome.
Yeah, it is.
That's intense. I mean,
yeah.
But it was obedience, right? It was about cleansing and not cruelty.
Yeah, it was that judgment. They had to remove the sin that was blocking God's blessing. And after that, they went back to AI and they won the battle.
That judgment led to victory.
Yeah. So judgment is the first time we see casting. Now, thank God we don't stone people. Right. No, don't stone people today. It's not part of our world. But judgment, it wasn't easy to throw those stones, and it was necessary. Some stones have to be cast, not in anger, but in consecration.
That's real strong, because just sometimes holding on to sin, or like just holding on to it or tolerating it, it's what's really holding you back.
Yep, that's right. Some stones aren't thrown in anger; they're cast in consecration.
That's a truism.
There you go. First truism of the day. Yeah. And sometimes judgment isn't coming from the outside. It's happening on the inside. This is one of my, when I started looking at the whole stones thing, this is one that really caught my attention right away. So we're not talking about hidden sin in the camp. We're talking about hidden shame. Ooh. In somebody's heart, in their soul, Yeah. The wild man of Gadara stood out to me.
Yeah.
Because, and I'll read this one.
Okay.
Mark 5:5. And always night and day, the Bible says he was in the mountains and in the tombs crying and cutting himself with stones.
Cutting himself with stones.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But after Jesus delivers him,
He's clothed in his right mind.
He cast away those stones away, and then Jesus gives him a mission.
Yep. Mark 5:19. Howbeit Jesus suffered him not, but saith unto him, Go home to thy friends, and tell them how great things the Lord hath done for thee, and hath had compassion on thee.
Man. From hurting himself in the tombs to sharing what God has done with his whole hometown.
Yep. Those were judgment stones too.
Yeah.
but he was cutting himself with them.
Yeah.
And he had to cast those stones away.
You have to do some damage with stones to really cut yourself.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He became a loud testimony of what God can do.
But that's what happens when Jesus steps in, right?
Yep, that's right. The stones cause wounds. They can inflict suffering and judgment and death. But once you're set free, you can't carry them anymore. You got to cast them away.
You cast them away.
Yeah.
That's right.
And he came, Jesus came to bring life and that more abundantly. So you've got to cast away stones, judgment for consecration. And then the next one is when you're preparing the ground.
Let's talk about preparing the ground.
Yeah, Isaiah talks about a man planting a vineyard in Isaiah chapter 5.
So in Isaiah chapter 5, verse 2, and he fenced it and gathered out the stones thereof and planted it with the choicest vine.
Yep, that's right.
You just can't plant where you haven't cleared, right? You ever try to plant something and it's like weeds everywhere, and you have to clear that in order for that plant to successfully grow, right?
Yeah, I'm not much of a gardener, but Kimberly's pretty good at it.
I like to garden sometimes. I mean, I did have a big pepper box plant. It was pretty cool. But of course, we're not talking about literal fields,
right?
Yeah, it's Isaiah's using a metaphor here, talking about the heart, preparing the heart.
Yep, and Jesus echoes this in Luke with the parable of the sower. He says it, and he explains the parable. But Luke 8, verse 6, some fell upon the rock, and as soon as it was sprung up, it withered away because it lacked moisture. And then he explains it in verse 13, they that were on the rock are they which when they hear, they receive the word with joy, and these have no root, and in time of temptation fall away. So you've got to clear that ground. You got to cast the stones out.
Right. So like even the word, right? Even the word won't survive in stony ground.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like,
wow.
Like you said, it's about preparing the heart. You got to take out the stony heart.
The stony heart. So that verse in Ezekiel 36 and 26, it says, a new heart also will give you, and I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh. Take away the stony heart. The stony heart out of your flesh. And I will give you an heart of flesh.
Yep.
Man, that's it right there. Casting away those stones isn't always about behavior.
Nope.
It's about letting God change your heart.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't clear the field without letting him deal with what's hardened inside. So we have to, the second time to cast away stones is you've got to cast away the stuff that clutters your soil, offense, getting offended. We were talking about that pre-show.
Yeah. We
Pre-recording, we were talking about being offended easily. And those that are. And then apathy, distractions. These are things we got to clear out. Cast away stones out of your heart.
Don't expect, now, Kim might know this. You said she's a little bit of a gardener, but don't expect the harvest if you won't clear the field, which is
there you go.
The heart, right?
Yeah.
Clear the heart.
You didn't get much peppers if you had a bunch of rocks sitting in your box, huh?
I did have some beetle-like things come and eat my tomatoes. I've never seen them before, but that's another talk. Yeah,
yeah.
It was weird.
We'll have to have you give us a gardening lesson.
Yeah.
Number three, when you're facing a giant, man, this is the one that I think everybody thinks about. Probably, if you think about a time to cast away stones,
yeah,
you're gonna think about David and Goliath.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
He had those 5 smooth stones before the battle. 1 Samuel, I'll read this one. 1 Samuel 17:40. And he took his staff in his hand and chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook, and he drew near to the Philistine.
he grabbed those stones.
Yep.
But he didn't have them for that long.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
What did he do with them stones?
When the moment came, 1 Samuel 17:49, and David put his hand in his bag and took thence a stone and slang it. Man, I like, King James Version sometimes has some cool little words. He slang it.
He slang it.
I think sometimes King James was a Okie. Sometimes he slang it. I read a verse. Man,
that's so good. He was an Okie.
Was it a text? And I think somebody was preaching, and that right well. There's a verse that says, and that right well. Like, that's an Okie
That's
verse
an Okie
right
verse
there.
too.
King James was, anyhow. And David put his hand in his bag and took thence a stone and slang it, and it smote the Philistine in his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth.
Oh man, I love that.
That's right.
I love that. He just picked up those stones and just slang them afterwards.
Slang it.
Well, but sometimes you don't need a shout.
Nope.
You just need to slang.
Slang it.
Not sling. You just need a slang.
Sling it. You know, this to me goes back to thinking of stones as memories. You know, in our last episode, it was about testimony stones or memorizing scripture so you can use it to gain victory. And I like to think that that's what David did here. He picked up a stone, he had it in his bag, and I remember, he pulled it out. He's like, I remember that bear that came for the sheep. It was a memory, testimony.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I remember
He's
that.
like, I remember that bear that came for the sheep. And then he picked up another one and he said, oh, I remember that lion that I slew with my bare hands. And then another one, he pulls out of his bag, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. Right?
Yeah,
These are stones to David. Good. They're memories of the word. I mean, he wrote Psalm 23, so, and that's what Jesus did too. When the tempter came, the stones he overcame with, when the devil was tempting Jesus, he answered him with scripture, with the word of God.
So Matthew 4, he says, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeded out of the mouth of God.
Yep.
He continues to say in Matthew 4:7, it is written again, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. And then Matthew 4:10 says, get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve.
Yeah, so I really think when you memorize a scripture, it's a little rock you got in your pouch.
Oh, yeah.
And when a giant comes at you, you can sling it at him.
You sling it at him. Slang it.
Slang it.
Slang it at him.
Slang it. Man.
So for the victories, you got to do both.
Yep.
You gather stones.
Gather the stone.
Sling them.
And then
cast them away.
Yep.
And you can't fight giants with an empty pouch.
No, you can't.
That's a truism.
There you go. Another truism for us today.
Yeah.
You got to fill that pouch up with some little stones. Memorize that word.
Yeah.
All right. Feels like we're moving good, fast here. When number 4, when a miracle is waiting on you.
I like that.
This one, this one's personal.
Yeah.
It's not just about spiritual warfare or clearing ground. There's some obedience here.
Yeah, this stone, right? It's not a weapon. It's in the way.
Yep. John 11, Lazarus is dead. It's been 4 days. Jesus shows up. And before he does anything, he gives them a task. I'll read this one. John 11:39. Jesus said, take ye away the stone. Martha, the sister of him that was dead, saith unto him, Lord, by this time he stinketh, for he's been dead 4 days. But Jesus was like, cast that stone away.
Oh, yeah.
Time to cast away stones.
But that's where a lot of people get stuck by, when they read that, by this time he stinketh.
Oh, man.
Like it's been 4 days,
Yeah.
They're like, it's too far gone. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah. But Jesus said it. Take away the stone. It's time. Cast away the stone. There's a time to gather stones together. There's a time to cast stones away. And, Jesus could have rolled the stone away himself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's about to call a dead man back to life, right? Jesus knows that.
He does.
That stone's not getting in his way.
Nope.
But he tells him, move it. Move that thing that's in the way.
Yeah. So sometimes that miracle that we talked about is waiting on our movement.
Our movement. Yep. You've got to remove the barrier between your obedience and his voice. John 11, 43 and 44. And when he thus had spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he that was dead came forth.
And there it is. There it is right there. They rolled the stone. Jesus called the miracle.
Mm-hmm. And that's how it works sometimes. Some breakthroughs They're blocked because we refuse to cast away a stone.
Oof.
Man, you're oofing today.
Oof.
Yeah.
Say that again, my brother.
Some breakthroughs
That's
are
a oof.
blocked because we refuse to cast away a stone.
Man, that's good. That's our word now, man.
Man.
You know that?
Oof.
Oof.
Yeah, it's come alive, hasn't
It's come alive.
We have oofs every week, I think.
Some breakthroughs are blocked because we refuse to cast away a stone.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's for somebody listening today, like right now.
I hope so. So this next one is different. So far, we talked about stones that we have to move.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, George, you can't move that stone yourself.
That's true. And that's when heaven steps in.
Yeah, so let's jump over to Matthew 28. This is resurrection morning. Jesus is in the tomb. Disciples are discouraged. But then God sends an angel.
Matthew 28:2. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for the angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone from the door and sat upon it. That is such a bold visual in itself. The angel doesn't just roll it away. He sits on top of that thing like, this thing's done, man. You know, he's just sitting on top of it.
Yeah.
Think of the visual.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
God didn't just move the stone. I mean, he did move the stone, but he didn't just move the stone. He settled it. That stone, you know, it was representing death, finality, defeat. And heaven said, your victory is here now.
Yeah, that wasn't just a stone like a man could roll away.
Yep.
That was divine intervention. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. Man, and you think about that. It had the guards out there in front of it too, right?
Yeah.
It had to take care of the opposition. But that's the point. Some stones you can't move on your own.
Right.
Some stones you can't move.
No, you can't.
But God can.
God can.
You've done everything you can when you've obeyed and you've waited, and when the time is right, God will send the breakthrough.
Yeah, and that's where, that's why you just don't give up, just because you're not strong enough to fix it. Sometimes it's not yours to move.
That's right.
Right? When God rolls the stone, it stays rolled.
Mm-hmm.
That's another truism.
There you go.
Buddy. Because resurrection power doesn't just bring life, it seals the victory.
Seals the victory. Okay, let's wrap this thing up. We've seen, what is that, 5? I think it's 5 times to cast away stones.
Yep. So we talked about...
First one was judgment.
We talked about when you're holding judgment.
Yeah, you got to cast that stone away.
Cast that one away.
Consecration. Right.
Then we talked about when you're preparing the ground.
Oh, yeah. Prepare your heart.
When you're facing a giant.
Let God give you that heart of flesh instead of a heart of stone.
A stony heart. I like that. Number 3, when you're facing a giant.
Yeah, victory.
About the 5 stones he got, and what'd you call them? Testimony stones?
Testimonies.
When the miracle, number 4, when the miracle is waiting on you.
And then number 5 was
when resurrection requires heaven's help.
Mm-hmm. Some stones gotta be only God can move.
Only God. So from judgment to resurrection, from cutting ourselves to clearing the way for a miracle. So here's the question: what stones are you listeners still carrying? Are you holding on to something you were never meant to keep?
Gotta let it go.
Is there a stone of bitterness? A stone of shame?
Cast them away.
A stone of silence where God's asking you to speak up? Or maybe it's a memory you keep you just keep cutting yourself from, or distraction. Or maybe it's a distraction that's keeping you from growing deeper.
Man. Maybe you rolled the stone halfway, but you're still waiting on God to finish what he started. Don't lose heart.
Yeah. He's still the God that rolls stones. So here's what we challenge you to do this week. Ask yourself, what do I need to drop?
Mm-hmm.
What do I need to clear? What do I need to slang?
Oh, slang it.
Slang that thing.
Sling it. Oh, man.
And what do I need to surrender so God can roll it away? Because there's a time to cast away stones. And when that moment comes, You don't want to miss it.
That's right. That's right. In this life, you're either building with stones, tripping over them, or learning when to let them go, cast them away.
Cast away those stones.
Hey.